Good morning, everyone. Once again, this is Black Forest coming to you with another market analysis video this morning. This morning, we're going to be looking at, once again, the USDJPY. Before we get started to break down this Forex pair, we have to state that this video is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice, but we all know why you guys are here. You guys are here to find good, credible Forex content that can help improve one's ability as a trader and to put a little bit of extra money in your pocket in these troubling times. Okay. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and break down this Forex pair. Now, if you've been following our videos for some time, you know the first thing we do before we talk about what's physically going on in charts. What is the fundamentals dictating what the currencies are doing? Okay. So first, we'll talk about the JPY. All right. Now, the JPY, as we can see, has remained one of our weaker currencies heading into this during this trading week. Um, and this is solely due to the fact that it's also going through inflation, but instead of increasing its interest rate to combat inflation, it kept its interest rate the same. So you raise your interest rate to bring down prices. So being that they did not raise their interest rate, there has been no ripple effect in their prices going down for their consumers' goods, for their citizens. And on top of that, we also had some very poor Japanese news come out at the latter part of last trading week. Okay, so the Japanese government must have some other ideas in mind to combat its inflation. But we do have some Japanese news coming out later tonight, between 8 o'clock, roughly about 7:50 p.m. to about 9:30. Okay. Now, I would kind of wait until this news come out before I would trade a pair that has the Japanese yen in it, because you don't want to be caught in either buy or short and it just decides to move very aggressively towards the other way. Because as I've stated, we're basically in a market now where people are giving speeches, and these speeches from the people that control the economic policies of the government, for the government, are starting to move the markets. Okay, so we got several speeches scheduled for later tonight, and we also have the PMI that's coming out at 8:30. So we're gonna have to watch out to see what is said during these speeches that may either cause the JPY to gain some type of strength, or may make it maintain its current weakness or become much weaker. Okay. Now the USD has a couple things going on with it. Now, during the latter part of last trading week, we did not have some good news, economic news come out about the USD. But we do have some news coming out about the USD around 10 o'clock this morning. So we're gonna have USD news around 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time this morning. But also last week, the Federal Reserve did state that they're going to they did excuse me, the Federal Reserve did raise the interest rate from 25% to 50%. This is to try to bring down prices from inflation. And then we did have the Fed chair, gentleman named Powell. He is making noise in the news saying that he's going to put more economic measures in place to combat what is currently going on with the high inflation with America. So we have a couple of situations with that. Okay, if the increase in inflation with the increase in the interest rate by the Feds for the US dollar, if that does not combat the inflation um, very fast, or does not combat it aggressively, then people will start to once again lose faith in the US dollar. And you'll have a lot of FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, start to surround the US dollar. And then you'll start to see a significant drop in value in the US dollar, which means that it will become much weaker than what it currently is right now. Okay. But if these economic policies and the increased interest rate does combat the American inflation with some aggression and with some expeditiousness, and we can safely say that the USD will start to gain strength, and the strength will come very aggressively. Okay. Now that we got the fundamentals out the way, let's talk about what's going on the chart. Okay. So we were ranging out for some time for safely to say about 30 to 40 days. And then we shot up and came all the way up. Okay. And now we're in a situation where, let's see, when was the last time we've been this relatively high? We haven't been this high since January of 2017. Okay. Which is roughly about 5 years ago. So basically, we're at almost like a five. We've, we're approaching, excuse me, I'm mistaken about that. I'm looking here. We're as high as here. So let's see. So, excuse me, January 2016 was the last time we were this high, which is roughly almost about 6 years ago. So I would be very cautious trying to look for continued buys out of this. Okay, now I know around this area we started to flat out and then we started to push up some more. But, sometimes it's better to miss opportunities and trying to go for every little opportunity and it end up not going your way. Okay, trust me when I tell you, as a person who's been trading for some time, you do not want to trade things when they start reaching all-time highs. You had a lot of people suffer from that with Dogecoin. They bought Dogecoin at like 50 cents, 70 cents, 60 cents, and 40 cents respectively. And Dogecoin has not seen those numbers in many months, and they're stuck at having Dogecoin at that price. So you want to bring that same concept to Forex. Even though this is looking good for a long term buy overall, you do want to have some pullback before you enter back into this trade, which is basically you want to see a discount come in before you enter this trade. Let's just think about this logically, okay? If you want to buy something, do you want to buy something when it's at its most expensive price, or do you want to buy something when it's much cheaper to buy it? If you're a person who values your hard-earned money, then you will want to buy something when it's much cheaper than at a very expensive price. Okay. And the only reason why we had this showed up here is because, like I said in previous videos, we are not dealing with a situation in which the USD is stronger than the JPY, or we're not dealing with a situation where we have which currency is stronger than the other. We're dealing with a situation where which currency is weaker than the other. And the JPY still remains one of our weaker currencies, even though the USD remains one of our weaker currencies, but the JPY remains weaker than the USD. Okay, so you will want to wait for some pullback to come. Now let's see how far it can possibly pull back. We could pull back to this area here. We could pull back to this area here, or we could pull back to this general area here before we start to go back up. Okay, but if the fundamentals start to change and we start to see that the economic policies and the increase in the interest rate on the American government, Federal Reserve part starts to actually play out very aggressively and very fast in combating inflation, then there's a good chance we could probably start to see a price turnover, in which will come down very aggressively, have a pathetic week up, and start to come down. Okay, but there's a strong possibility we may range out a little bit before we start to go down too. But you will be looking for a drop in price sometime soon. Now, how aggressive that drop in price is will be dictated will be dictated by um, by how the Japanese news plays out tonight and over the next several trading days and several trading weeks. and also if the USD, um, the economic policies in place to keep the USD strong are actually coming in, are actually working in its favor. Because if it's not working in its favor, and then we do start to see that the Japanese government are placing economic policies to combat inflation, then we could also see an aggressive push down. But if we can see that the Japanese government is wavering in its decision making on what they're trying to do, and we are seeing that we're seeing that the USD and the American, excuse me, or we're seeing that the American government in relation to the USD is combating inflation in an expeditious way, in an aggressive way, then we'll probably see a slight push down, and then we'll continue to see um move go up. Okay. So this one you gotta kind of wait to see the fundamentals along with the technical analysis to kind of see what's going on. It's like I've said, you don't want to be in a situation where you're at a 5, 6, 7 year all-time high and you're buying at these higher prices, then all of a sudden price turns around. Because usually when you start reaching all-time highs, when price turns around, it turns around very, very aggressively. Okay. Before we get done with this video, I will caution you to remember Dogecoin. A lot of people bought it at 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents, even when it got as high as 70 cents, and it tumbled down, and it's only been trading between about 20 to as high as about 25 to 27 cents for the last probably about 2 years, about 2 to 2.5 years. Okay, I hope that information was helpful for you guys. Happy trading.